I would like you all to give a very, very warm welcome to the Jamaican Minister of Information, Culture, Youth, Sport and Gender Affairs, Miss Olivia Babsy Grange. And Ms. Grange, we are so very happy to have you here. I would like to start with a little anecdote. When I was introduced to Ms. Grange, that was in February, at the Africa Unite show, by a very dear friend of mine, Professor Carolyn Cooper, she said, come, you have to meet Babsy, come. You have to give her a Riddim magazine. And I went over, and instead of saying Miss Grange, I ended up to say, hello, Babsy. And I felt a little bit embarrassed. But she's really affectionately known by the Jamaican people as Babsy. And Miss Grange, you know, she's not only a politician, she's a former music producer, an impresario, a cultural promoter, a mother, a grandmother, a businesswoman, a social worker, an activist, and a people's person. And one of the things she says quite oftenly is that she can dine with kings and walk with beggars. So that makes it clear, the people's person again. And Mrs. Grange, another warm welcome, of course. So what does it feel like now to come to Italy, to see the reggae culture you're promoting from such a long time when you come here and go to the festival?
It feels great. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Now, I'm assuming most people here, most of you speak English. Am I correct? But is it necessary for anyone to?
No, we have simultaneous translation in Italian.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm sure when I speak Jamaican, most of you will understand anyway. But it's good to be here. And I feel irie.
And Ms. Grange, how did you get involved in the music so passionately and so strongly?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I'm a product of Western Kingston. So I came out of the creative belly of the music, because reggae music, and the reggae, a generic term now because it describes the sounds of Jamaica, but in the early days, before we called it reggae, our earliest pop music was mento. And before mento, we had our traditional music and our Afro-Christian music. So the most traditional and the music that has the strongest African retention is what we call kumina. K-U-M-I-N-A, kumina. And it's, in fact, it's a music that retains most of the African elements, because those who performed that ritual came to Jamaica as free Africans. And so they were able to retain most of the African traditions. I don't know how many of you here have seen kumina or heard kumina music. Anybody here familiar with kumina? Well, I'll tell you briefly a little about it. 2 drums are used, and the drummers sit astride the drums. One drum is the bass, which is called the bando or the cabando. And you can get 45 different bass sounds from that drum. The second drum is the lead drum, and it's called the playing cast. And when the drummers sit astride the drums and play, the dancers, they dance in a circle around the drummers and sing. And in fact, that ritual is performed on special occasions, either a wake or a celebration or a wedding. And sometimes the dancers and even the drummers become possessed, and they do some very interesting things. But when next you come to Jamaica, I will arrange a Kumina session so you all can experience that very dynamic. And in fact, I'm sorry I didn't take with me some Kumina music. But I have with me here my principal director of culture. And I'm going to ask him to give you a little idea of what Kumina feels like. You won't hear the drums, but he's going to do a song and he's going to ask you to just clap along. Come on now. This is Sid Bartley. This is just to liven up and to create a nice vibe. Let's go.
The rhythm is... True blood, the river, me say true blood, oh. True blood, true blood, true blood, oh. True blood, the river, me say true blood, oh. True blood, true blood, true blood, oh.
And when they dance, a lot of pelvic movements, a lot of what you now call whining in dancehall. In Kumina, it's a traditional dance form. And so we can relate the early traditional forms with the present music, dancehall, and reggae forms. So they just whine to the music of the drums. So from Kumina, we have the African Christian music, which is revival music. And the revival is in two forms. One is Pocomania, which is closer to Kumina. And then as they get closer to Christianity, it becomes revival, Zion revival. And in fact, it's again song and dance. We're real musical people, so even when we worship with music. And the revivalists, their drums, they use a drum called the kettle drum, or the kete drum. And it's hung over their shoulders, and it's a round drum, and they use sticks to beat those drums. And they clap, joining in the songs, and they also move in what they say they move in the spirit. And so they will make guttural sounds and travel when they're in the spirit. They're traveling in the spirit, and they dance around a spread with a table with fruits. And usually it's an experience that they call their Thanksgiving table. And I won't ask Sid to sing a revival song. Or do you want to?
Daniel God.
You want to hear him?
Daniel God surely will deliver. Daniel God surely will deliver. If you only look to him by faith, Daniel God surely will deliver.
And so then we move from revival into mento. And now mento is a little like calypso. How many people here are familiar with calypso? But it's not quite calypso. You know mento song? Okay, now that's calypso. Yeah? Okay, now that's Harry Belafonte. And Harry Belafonte's parents were Jamaicans. And a part of his youth, he spent in Jamaica. And those songs, that very song, is a folk song. And it's a Jamaican folk song. And what Harry Belafonte did was to popularize Jamaican folk songs. So you want to lead that song and let... Deo. Deo.
De. Me say de, me say de, me say de, me say de, me say de. Oh. De la loud and me want go home. De me say de, oh. De da come and me want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. De da come and me want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. De da come and me want go home. De me say de, oh. De da come and me want go home. 1, 6 and 7 and 8 and bunch. De da come and me want go home. Me come here fi walk, me no come here fi idle. De da come and me want go.
Okay. So, in fact, that's a Jamaican folk song, again, coming out of the same roots. And then we have Mento, which is a little like Calypso, and I don't know how many people know about the, call it Mento Calypso song about the naughty little flea. And the song is, where did the naughty little flea go? Nobody know, nobody know. But the naughty little flea went somewhere where it shouldn't go. And so Mento was used for social commentary and for fun. And then from Mento now, we ended up with ska. How many of you know of ska? Everybody knows ska, or blue beat. And so the very first time ska was exposed internationally was at the United States when the World's Fair was hosted by the United States. And a group from Jamaica was sent by the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister at the time, Edward Seaga. And in that group, you had, I don't know how many of you are aware of Byron Lee, but Byron Lee was the band. And among the artists who went to perform at the World's Fair was Jimmy Cliff, Delroy Wilson, Ken Booth, the Blues Busters, and Roy Shirley, a number of others. And then they performed and they were a big hit. And when they were being sent to perform overseas, what we arranged, I was a tiny tot then. What was arranged was that you can't have the music without the dance. And so dance movements were put to the ska. How many of you know those dance movements? Let me see who knows it. The ska dance movement. Jamaica, come on, Jamaica ska now.
Ska, 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 ba-da-da-dum-bum, Jamaican ska.
Let me see you all do the ska. Come on. Come on, will you stand? Don't be shy.
Not everybody can do the ska, the real life Jamaican ska. Ska, 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 ba-da-da-da. Jamaican ska.
Let me hear you. And so, from the ska, we went, is that ska? I hear some music. And from ska, we moved to rocksteady. So I'm saying to myself, now, because so much energy had to be used up to do the ska, we slowed down the music to take it easy. And in taking it easy, you know, Bob Marley had a very, very popular song. Very popular. Very popular. Simmer Down. You know that song?
Yes.
And so everybody would just rock, take it easy and just rock steady and rock steady. And then, what happened after that? What happened after that? Reggae. Reggae. And so, that genre has lasted the longest, because what has happened now, reggae is now a generic term for all the sounds of Jamaican music. And it has gone through various forms, dancehall. And again, when you think of dancehall, I think of all the movements from the very early traditional forms of Jamaican music. So it's a cycle, and the roots remain the same, and it's all about a music that, and I should pause here to mention, throughout the years, there's always been a religious touch to the music. And what has come out of all of this, a religion now that has touched so many people across the world, a new religion, Jamaica and reggae music, through Rastafari, gave the world a new religion. And so, reggae, it's not just a music, it's not just a dance, it's a people, it's a culture, it's a lifestyle. And I want to thank you all. I want to thank Rototom Sunsplash, the organizers of Rototom Sunsplash. I want to thank all of you as journalists. I want to thank all the fans out there for embracing our culture, embracing the culture of Jamaica, embracing the music of Jamaica, embracing the religion of Rastafari, embracing what to us is our creativity, and to have established that bond between us that promotes the saying, one love. And so Jamaica has given to the world something very special. But if you did not embrace it, then it would have gone nowhere. And right now in Jamaica, we have a saying, to the world. I don't know if you have heard that one yet. To the world. But as soon as it catches on, I know you're all going to be saying it like you say Irie. But the interesting thing is, not have we given Irie to the world, but we have given another word to the world, this. Do you know this is in the dictionary? This. Because Jamaicans don't like to be disrespected. In Jamaica, we do something called a cut eye. I don't know if you know what that is. But you look at someone and you cut your eye. It can be a positive if you wink. But if it's not a wink, it's a cut eye, which is a negative. And a cut eye can be treated as disrespect. And so when you diss someone, you do something real bad. And now we can find it in the dictionary, this, the short for disrespect. We've also given the world the best coffee. How many of you know of our Blue Mountain coffee? We have given the world, in recent times, the 2 fastest men in the world. In fact, Osoppo Italy was in Italy up to 24 hours ago, training. And so we have Usain Bolt and we have Osoppo Italy, the 2 fastest men in the world. And not only do we have the 2 fastest men in the world, we have the fastest women. So the women are also stepping up and they are playing their part. And when we go to Beijing in August, I want you to remember us. And when we win the 100 meters, we get gold, and we get gold in the 200 meters, and we get gold in the relay. I want you to put on the wickedest reggae song you can find. And just big us up, just big up Jamaica, wherever you are in the world. We are a diverse culture. We are predominantly a nation with black people, African retentions and African background. But the interesting thing about it, the very first, the original inhabitants of Jamaica were Tainos, the Taino people, the Arawak Indians. And when Christopher Columbus came from Spain, and by the way, Christopher Columbus was an Italian, leading the Spanish people to Jamaica, came to Jamaica, said he discovered Jamaica. But in fact, he didn't discover Jamaica. He was the first tourist, the first visitor to Jamaica. And after the Spanish, we had the British, and we're proud of our Maroons who fought the British and won the war. And today we have our female or woman national hero, Nanny of the Maroons, who fought the British and won the war. And they are within Jamaica. They have their own colony, their own nation, their own rules. And they have been able to retain their own culture. And so we are proud of our Maroon people as well, our indigenous people. And in fact, just recently, there was a seminar which was hosted by the World Intellectual Property Organization in Jamaica, which looked at our indigenous culture. And they focused primarily on the Maroons and on Rastafari, and to see how we can protect the intellectual property rights of those cultures, and how we can ensure that although we spread it and the world admire our culture and our retentions, that it's not exploited to the extent where we do not benefit as a country from it. And so today means a lot to me. It means a lot to my principal director of culture, who is a Maroon. It means a lot to all the Jamaican performers here. It means a lot to Jamaica that you have helped us to take our culture to the world. You have helped us to promote what we now call Brand Jamaica. At the center of that brand, our music and our culture. We have now launched a nation branding program. And you will hear more about it as we develop that nation branding program. I know Israel, for example, they have done well in their nation branding. And so I said, you know, recently the United States celebrated their anniversary of their independence. And I was asked to speak on behalf of the government of Jamaica. This was at a function in Kingston. And at the end of my presentation, the US ambassador said, I hope you bring home a lot of gold medals from Beijing. And I grabbed the opportunity to say to her, yes, we plan to do so because although we're a small country, we're awesome. Now, My experience as an industry, a music industry person, has exposed me to the ups and downs of the industry, to the struggles, to the problems, and also to the wonderful experiences. Myself and my partner specialist, who is here, Albaros's manager, we both manage Shabarangs, we manage Cobra, we manage Patra, we manage Bounty Killer, Richie Stevens. We were Damian Marley's first managers. And we felt that it was necessary to do whatever that was humanly possible to promote these individuals in their early stages and to help to make them the personalities that you know today. They are talented people, and we felt that we should stand with them and help to make them great. And so we feel that in playing our part, we have contributed to an industry and to a music that has done well. Today, I'm the Minister of Information, Culture, Youth, Sports, Community Development, and anything else they're not sure where to put it. I end up with it. But as Jamaican women say, we are equal to the task. And so we take the responsibility and we do our best. So I am very happy today that I'm here as the driver of the industry in Jamaica, as the minister responsible for culture and information. But I must say to you, although I'm here as a minister, they say politicians like to speak for a long time. Well, I am going to disappoint you. I've spoken long enough. I will now stop talking and allow you to ask your questions. Thank you so much for listening so keenly. Thank you for singing. And I look forward to dancing with all of you tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grange, for the wonderful history of the music and the strong influence you talked about the Jamaican culture, especially its global impact. And I wish you all not to be shy and go ahead and put a question. This is a very rare chance, and we are so happy to have Ms. Grange here today.
The acceptance of Rasta culture in the Jamaican society was not always this good if you look in the past. So how did this develop to reach the nowadays level, and what impact had, for example, Bob Marley on this?
Rasta and reggae was not accepted in the early stages in Jamaica. The music had to go uptown to be accepted. In fact, it had to go outside of Jamaica to be accepted by Jamaicans. And Byron Lee contributed significantly to taking the music to uptown Jamaicans. And then it eventually became accepted by those who wielded power and those who had the money to spend. Rasta, we have to thank Bob Marley for taking Rasta to the world and for taking reggae music to the world. But not only did Bob Marley contribute to that, but we had Count Ozzy and the mystic revelations of Rastafari. And they carried the music. And then there were many others who helped to promote. Burning Spear, many, many others who helped to promote Rasta and made it acceptable throughout. And now, it's not just Jamaicans who are Rasta. And it's not just the locks that make you Rasta either. Because there are some people who wear the locks who are not Rasta. And there are some people who do not wear the locks, but they're Rasta at heart. Because Rastafari is all about love, peace, and respect.
Thanks a lot. Do we have another question? Maybe I put an... Oh, yes. Okay. Can you come?
Minister Grange, good to have you. My name is Vincent Bell. I'm from Jamaica. I'm a personal friend of your colleague, Dr. Horace Chang. You could say hi to him when you see him again. I just want to ask a specific question on the branding of the Jamaican imagery. I'm a bit baffled. Could you just share any specific example of how you had bottled the imagery and branded? Thanks.
Well, as you know, Jamaica is branded already by reggae. You say reggae, you say Jamaica. Jamaica is already branded by Bob Marley. You say Bob Marley, you say Jamaica. But we have many other products that brand Jamaica, but not as widespread and as internationally known. Even the colors, Puma. Pumas use the Jamaican colors. And they have used it to brand Puma, but it also brands Jamaica. So what we have done, we have put together a very experienced and knowledgeable team of marketing people and those who have helped to brand Jamaica in some other ways. For example, Chris Blackwell is a part of that team. And we are, in fact, meeting and discussing the ways in which we will ensure that all the products that brand Jamaica is protected, and that in promoting the brand, that we will have Jamaica benefiting, not just in terms of a destination for visitors, but as a country that will benefit financially from the returns from its products being used overseas, even in terms of protecting the various products that brand Jamaica. So I don't know if that answers your question.
You know, what I'd love to hear is you, Minister, telling us, oh yes, doing all this branding will lead to so much benefit. Quantify that for us, and if you could just quantify that for us, let me see what's going on down the yard.
Okay. The World Intellectual Property Office, WIPO, they selected Jamaica to do a study as to what our creative industries contribute to GDP. And Professor Vanus James from the university conducted that study. The information coming out of that study highlighted the fact that what we have to do is to chart a path in what has now turned out to be the new industries and the industries of the future. And those industries are the industries, the creative industries, are the industries that is expanding and in fact generating foreign exchange to the benefit of the country. I'll give you some examples here. The cultural and creative industries represent one of the fastest growing sectors of the global economy, and representing up to 7% of the world's GDP, with growth forecast of 10% per annum. And studies have shown that the creative industries contribute to the economies of the regions in which they are located through income generation and purchases of supplies, and by enhancing the design, the production, the marketing of products and the services in other sectors. And so the Vannes-James study indicates that the copyright sector contributes about 4.8% of GDP of Jamaica and accounts for 3% of all employment in Jamaica. And by comparison, the copyright industries contribute 7.8% of GDP in the US, and in Australia, 5% of GDP. Now, what you have to bear in mind is that if we now promote those sectors and we are able to generate more revenue and more foreign exchange and bring that into Jamaica, then it is going to make Jamaica's economy boom. So not only would we be promoting the brand to the world as we say, but we will also use the creative industry to boost the economy and to create wealth creation. And as we're saying, we're turning it around. We're not talking about poverty alleviation. We're talking about wealth creation. I will.
Ms. Grange, I would like to put another question to you. You were also involved in the organization of the Jamaican Reggae Sunsplash, the world's first reggae festival. And now you are also playing a key part in the Rototom Sunsplash. And how did this connection come about?
Well, what's interesting, in 1981, when Bob Marley passed away, well, I was living in Canada, came back to Jamaica. The Jamaican government was fairly new in office. They won in October 1980. And prior to that, I spent some time in Canada. I broke reggae in Canada promoting the music. And Reggae Sunsplash was going through really difficult times. And they came to me and they said, Babsy, we're not going to be able to do Sunsplash this year. We have not gotten the sponsorship. We do not have support. We never got support from government before. We struggled through the years, but this time we can't make it. I said, no, Sunsplash is going to have to happen. It must happen. And so I went to the Prime Minister. At that time it was Prime Minister Edward Seaga. And I said, Prime Minister, we have to promote our music. Sunsplash is an annual event and it cannot fail. It must happen. All I want is your blessing. Give me the okay to go out there and make it happen. And he said, sure. And then I said, and let's make it a tribute to Bob Marley. And he said, great, yes. Because, you know, the government had given Bob Marley an official funeral. The first country in the world, maybe the only country in the world, to have recognized a pop artist and have given a pop artist an official government funeral. And the Prime Minister agreed because, you know, Prime Minister Edward Seaga is one of the music industry pioneers. He's one of the first record producers. And in fact, he and Chris Blackwell were competitors. And so I went back to the guys, Ronnie Burke, Don Green, Tony Johnson, who actually came up with the concept of Reggae Sunsplash. And I said to them, okay, we're going to get to work. Asked the Prime Minister to call his friend, who was the marketing man at D&G, which is now Red Stripe, and to ask if they would sponsor the event. They didn't want to, but he was able to convince them. So they gave partial sponsorship. Now, it's like Jah was working, because I went to New York for a week, was meeting with one of the US top entertainment lawyers, Paul Marshall, who happened to have been Stevie Wonder's attorney. And while I was in his office, he got a phone call. Stevie Wonder was in Jamaica. Nobody knew he was going to Jamaica. And he had no money, and he needed security. And so Paul Marshall asked me to fly back to Jamaica and go and assist him. So I came back, and of course, I said to Stevie, Stevie, we're having Reggae Sunsplash. We're having it as a tribute to Bob Marley. And will you come as our guest? I know we can't ask you to be a performer because all your equipment would have to come to Jamaica, and we can't afford to transport all that equipment. But if when you come, you feel the vibes, will you go up on stage and jam? And he said, okay, I'll attend. And the word got out on the ground. And it was the first Reggae Sunsplash that had a massive crowd, because everybody heard that Stevie Wonder would be there. And naturally, Stevie Wonder came, and he felt the vibes, and he went up on stage, and he jammed. And it was a wonderful tribute to Bob Marley. And the Reggae Sunsplash took off from that time and survived. Well, eventually they moved out of Montego Bay, and Reggae Sumfest took over. But Sunsplash survived throughout the world. And that is why I'm here today with Rototom Sunsplash. And I would like to see next year that Rototom pay tribute to the originators of the concept and invite those. I think two of the individuals have passed away, but there are still two persons alive. Ronnie Burke, who works with me, and I wanted him to come with me on this trip, but he had to go to Nigeria on a tour. But I am happy that the name Sunsplash continues, because again, that has branded Jamaica. And it's a wonderful concept. It's a concept that will live on and on and on. And I want to thank the organizers of Rototom to ensure that the brand Sunsplash and Jamaica continues to rule the world.
If I do not see any hands, I would go ahead with another question. Well, okay, there's somebody. Can you come to the front, please?
I would like to know the great support you're doing cultural-wise from the government for the music. There's also a program running educational-wise to bring up new artists, that they build up schools where reggae being taught. Like they have a Kingston School of Music where they have jazz music teaching, but there's not really reggae artists performing or teaching there. There's something happening in this direction?
Well, I'm really happy to report that the School of Music, which forms a part of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, has now have a greater outreach outside of a very narrow area they have been working. And in fact, Ibu Cooper from Third World now teaches at the School of Music. And I'm telling you, they're turning out some great little bands, young people. I would say twice a week on TVJ, every morning there's a new band being showcased from the School of Music. I think that's really wonderful. And in addition to that, we are ensuring as a new government that in every school, every school, every high school will have a band. Every primary school will teach music, and at least the students will learn to play at least one instrument. And we are exposing them to all the genres of music. And in fact, in my discussions here in meeting, I met with 3 mayors and a deputy mayor, the Minister of Culture, and the president of the region. And we were discussing how we can collaborate in music and culture. And I expressed a love for Bocelli. And we are looking at, we have a very talented young lady who sings classical music in Jamaica. And we're hoping that something can be arranged where she could visit Italy and be assisted by some of the great performers here to develop her skills. So when you talk about music, we're talking about all genre of music. And we're going to ensure that not only do we have good singers and good writers, but also good players of instruments. And we're going to make sure it reaches the grassroots. I was involved in a program where in West Kingston, where we had a band, and that band
Continue.
Thank you. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Okay, I think I answered that question. Did I?
The only point is there also a program supporting education or the schools with instruments, supplying them? Because there was a time they was not so good equipped, and yeah, just I would like to know.
There is a program. There is the program in schools, but what I can tell you is that we could use all the assistance we can get in acquiring instruments for the schools. So any support that can come from anyone, anywhere in the world, we will welcome the support. We need instruments.
Somebody has another question, otherwise I would pose another question to Ms. Grange. Ms. Grange, this year, the month of February, it was the first time that the Reggae Month was, as a part of this branding Jamaica Maybe you can tell the people about the Reggae Month this year, but also about the future plans next year, because when I got that right, the Rototom, there might happen something very special next year.
Well, for the first time, we launched Reggae Month and celebrated Reggae Month in February. And during Reggae Month, we celebrated Bob Marley's birthday. Africa Unite was brought to Jamaica for the first time. We celebrated Dennis Brown's birthday. We had a reggae film festival. We did very, very well. We had the Reggae Music Awards. We had a major lecture and seminar at the University of the West Indies. And there were many other activities. February of next year, we will again have Reggae Month. And Rototom, I'm hoping, will be in Jamaica in February with what I call a mini splash. A mini splash. We have had some discussions and nothing has been finalized, but I'm hoping that based on the discussions, the last night of Reggae Month, the end of February, we're going to have a street blocker. We're going to block off the New Kingston Knotswood Boulevard, and we will have a mini Rototom splash. In fact, I'm hoping that prior to coming to Jamaica in February, that Rototom may have some kind of a contest and select a winner or winners of awards, and then bring those performers to Jamaica for Reggae Month to participate in our awards ceremony in Jamaica. Let's keep our fingers crossed, as we say in Jamaica, and let's hope the organizers can pull it off. Now, I just want to, I am assuming you're going to wrap up soon. But just before we wrap up, I just want to say to you that my presence here has turned out to be of great importance to the organizers of this festival. In meeting with the officials of Udine, in meeting with the officials, the mayors and the Minister of Culture and the President, I am happy that they have all expressed support for the festival. And what they've said has been very, very positive. However, they do express a concern about the smoking of marijuana. They have expressed a concern about what they call drugs. And I have reassured them that the organizers of this festival have always promoted a campaign against drugs, and that the majority of visitors, the majority of those who are here for Sunsplash are not weed smokers. They're not necessarily weed smokers. I also highlighted to them that marijuana in Jamaica is now playing an important role in medicine. We have scientists in Jamaica who have come up with a cure for glaucoma using marijuana. I also explained that it is now being explored in the treatment of cancer, and all its medicinal value is being explored by our local scientists working along or working in collaboration with international scientists and organizations. And so I just want you to be aware that there is that concern. However, they do support the festival. They think it has contributed to the economy. Over 3 million euros have been circulated and has come into the economy. Over 150,000, an audience of over 150,000. And it employs over 1,600 in this region. And so there is more positive than negative. And I've expressed to them that the continuation of this festival, their continued support, and certainly financial support is of importance. And it's not only important to the organizers of the festival, it's not only important to the region, but it's also important to Jamaica. It's a win-win situation. And so I think that Rototom Sunsplash will continue to get the support that it deserves. And I'm asking you all to ensure that the conduct and the discipline and the order is maintained. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grange, for the wonderful speech, for having the time for us. And another round of applause, please. I also would like to inform you about tomorrow's session at the Reggae University, which is Reggae in Europe. We will have Olaf Karnik, who is a journalist from Germany, talk about reggae in Germany. He recently published a book together with Helmut Phillips, another writer of Riddim Magazine. And we also have like the contest winner taking part, talking about their special scene in the various countries. So I hope to see you all tomorrow, and thanks and a round of applause again to Miss Babsy Grange.
And I want to applaud you.